one of the doctors come over, and I had just gotten the tubes out, just got out of a tube, and he leaned over and he said, "Okay, this is just between you and me." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you do drugs?"
Go there!
Boom! All right, so I am here with Amberly Lago, author, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, survivor, thriver. Am I missing anything?
Oh, no, keep going, keep going. No.
Keep
Thank
talking.
you.
Of course.
I'm excited to be here with you. I love talking with you.
So I'm really glad we got to connect. We had a mutual friend who put us in touch with each other and said we'd be perfect to kind of have on a podcast and just be a connection, just because of our mentalities and interests. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. And I guess for those who don't know who you are, do you want to give kind of a quick background of who is Amberly Lago?
Yes, hi, I'm author, speaker, coach. We talked a little before, and you're like, "Where are you from?" And I'm from a small town in Texas, and I grew up dancing my whole life. I was an athlete, and I was a miler, and in Texas I was very proud. I set a state record. I'm sure it's been broken by many times by now. But, and as we were talking about earlier, like, Texans are very proud. So I've lived in California for 29 years, and I still sound like this.
It's sticking. It's not going away.
It's sticking. But my whole life changed. I was living that California dream. I had people in Texas like, "Oh, you'll be back. You aren't going to stay there. You're going to be back in a couple of weeks," and I'm still here. But I was really living that California dream, loving what I did. I traveled the world as a professional dancer, and then I was a trainer and was, worked with athletes and fitness competitors and was nationally recognized as a coach. And in the blink of an eye, that all changed when I was hit by an SUV coming home from work on my motorcycle. And
what year was this?
This was 9 years. This was 2010.
Okay.
2010. And it was interesting. My youngest daughter, she's 11, and she's like all into YouTube. And she's like, "Mom, you have all these notifications." And I'm like, "What does that mean? I don't know how to work YouTube, but I have a channel." And there was a YouTube video, and I just watched it last night. And sometimes I think in life we get caught up and I don't think about the past too much, but I saw a video from YouTube, and it was of right after the accident, and I hadn't seen that video in a long time, and it shows me in a coma, and it shows my leg completely crushed, and the doctors talking about how my femoral artery was severed. And then I saw my husband talking, and he was crying, and my husband's a lieutenant commander with the highway patrol, and he just doesn't cry. He doesn't show emotion, and he's in the video crying, and it took me back to that time, and it really made me think, wow, I've come a long way. I went from having 34 surgeries to save my leg from amputation, and being told I would be wheelchair bound for the rest of my life, and hearing these doctors in the videos that I hadn't heard in a long time, and they're saying, she'll never be a trainer. She'll never work again. She will never work again.
Were these videos, were they personal video, like people were taking them, or was it news clips?
It was a personal video. It was like a day in the life of. And it was so hard to hear those doctors. I hadn't heard that in a long time. That I will be disabled for the rest of my life and in a wheelchair. And I used that was my biggest motivator. I used that to say, "Oh, really? I'll never walk again? Mm-hmm. Well, watch me. I'll never run again? Well, watch me. I'll never work again? Well, watch me." And I think it's really important to not let our failures define us, but instead let them, we can draw strength from that to its building blocks to, push us forward. I definitely don't do what I used to do. I think, part of being resilient isn't necessarily bouncing back because I definitely did not bounce back. I mean, my leg is scarred for life, and I had to learn to accept that. But I bounced forward and reinvented myself, and I think that we all have that capability to do that.
For sure. So 9 years ago, you get hit by this truck, this SUV. How much of it do you actually remember?
Every freaking detail, like every detail. It's so vivid, and it just now doesn't play over and over in my head. Like for a long time, I didn't want to close my eyes because I would close my eyes and I would see the SUV hitting me. But I remember every detail. I remember sliding across the asphalt.
So did it hit you? Did it like T-bone you?
I got T-boned.
Okay, yep.
They didn't see me, even though I had that hot pink jacket on. That was my favorite jacket. It was a brand new jacket. And I remember being in the ambulance, and they were starting to cut my jacket. And I'm like, no, don't cut my jacket. It's brand new. And they were just looking at me like, oh my God, this chick's crazy. Her leg is probably going to fall off right here in the ambulance, and she's worried about her jacket.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the whole backside of me was completely shredded. As they prepped me, I said, wait a minute, what are you giving me? And they said, well, we have to give you morphine. And I said, no, I'm allergic to morphine. You can't give me that. I could die. And then I was in so much pain. I thought, well, maybe I do want to die, because this is the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced in my life.
And you're still worried about the jacket?
And I was like, don't cut the jacket, don't. And, I was grabbing on to this paramedic's leg and just squeezing his leg, and I was looking for any kind of reaction, like, is this going to be okay? And they wouldn't make eye contact with me. And so I had no idea, am I dying? Like, am I going to die? What's going on? And when I was laying in the street, I knew it was bad by the reaction of other people, because they weren't running over to me. They were walking really slow with like this horrified look on their face. And I thought, well, this must be bad if nobody even wants to approach me. And I could see the blood gushing out of my leg with like one of those horror movies where you see my femoral artery was severed and it was just pulsing out. And I really believe, and I really wish I knew who this man was, but there was a man who right away took his belt off and made a tourniquet on my leg, and he saved my life.
It's crazy.
He saved my life, and to this day, I don't know.
Really? Never found out, never reached out to him?
I don't know who he was,
Really? My brother had a similar situation, not to go off track, but he was in Costa Rica, and he saw his buddy get hit by a motorcycle, and same thing, I mean, his leg was completely, it was just, severed, and he had to do that, and he was in the prosthetics and orthotics, so he knew where the artery was and just went in and held it. And,
wow.
Yeah, similar kind of thing. Like same thing. If he wasn't there within a minute.
So wait, your brother is in prosthetics?
No, so he's in the prosthetics and orthotics business. So it's just kind of a crazy situation that he saw his buddy get hit on a motorcycle.
Oh my
God. And he went and held the artery down. And then he ended up, he was pretty much amputated from that accident.
Well, it was about a year after my accident. I had 34 surgeries to save it. I mean, I woke up from a coma and they said, we want to amputate it.
So what was that timeline between, so the accident happened, they induced you into a coma?
They induced me in coma because I was failing. My body was shutting down. I was going into, they couldn't control my pain. I guess when you go into shock, all my organs were shutting down. Yep. And so they put me in induced coma, and I remember the nurse, her name's Shaniqua, I still keep in touch with her to this day, and she leaned over me and she's like, the whole waiting room, the emergency room was chaotic. I mean, and it was full of cops, because when you're in the brotherhood of the police force, news travels fast. And so my husband's, like, all our friends were in there. They thought I was a cop that had gone down. And so it was very chaotic, and my husband was hysterical, and I said, get over here, I need you to be strong for me, and I need you to hold my hand. And the nurse leaned over and said, we're going to give you something to make you feel all better now. And that was the last thing I remember before waking up with the mask on. When you're in a coma, you've got like a mask that breathes for you, and I was trying to rip it off, and they're like, don't take it out, and they're like, I think she's trying to say something, because you can't talk. You've got a tube down your throat. And the nurse was like, get her a notepad. And they gave me a pad, and my husband's leaning over me with tears in his eyes. And you would think that I would say something like, I love you, or how long have I been out? And the first thing I said was, get off my tubes. Because my husband was leaning over the bed, and he was leaning across the tubes that supplied air, and I couldn't breathe. And the next thing I said was, don't tell Savannah. That was my oldest daughter, and she was away on a trip. I had no idea how long I had been out. I didn't want her to worry. She had been back in town. I was out in a coma for a little over a week and a half, and then like the second thing, like what I did was like I had a BlackBerry back then, and I'm like, I need my phone. And I started right away. I just got out of a coma, and I was texting clients to let them know that I won't be able to train you, or I missed the session. Let me set you up with this trainer. And when I was being transferred to the other hospital, even in all this excruciating pain, I was on the phone trying to take care of my clients, and my husband was like, give me the phone, And I was like already trying to take care of business, even though...
Get back into life.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
You were personal training at the time.
I had my own training company. Okay. I had 3 trainers that worked for me. Okay. I worked full-time as a trainer, and I did fitness videos. I had just shot a video the day before, so it was really a business. At one point, I was sponsored by Nike, and so, luckily I had trainers that worked for me, and I could call them and say, hey, I need you to cover these clients for me.
We got a little bit of
we're going to keep the ball rolling.
Is there anything that the doctor said that because of how physically in shape you were that helped out, that you were able to obviously survive through this?
Well, it was really interesting. I had one of the doctors come over, and I had just gotten the tubes out, just got out of a tube, and he leaned over and he said, okay, this is just between you and me. And I said, yeah. He goes, do you do drugs? And I said, no, sir, I've never done a drug in my life. I don't even take aspirin. He goes, well, are you an athlete? And I was kind of like, well, isn't it obvious? And he goes, we had a hard time knocking you out. He said,
your metabolism.
Your endorphins.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yes, sir, I'm an athlete. I run every day. In fact, the day of my accident, I ran 11 miles in my best time ever. And he's like, well, yeah, we had a real hard time knocking you out and keeping you out. And I was like, wow, endorphins are powerful. Mm-hmm. And to this day, even if I'm hurting really bad from my nerve disease, or if I'm just, worn out, I know I need to get to the gym, because I know I need it mentally to feel better. Not just physically. It's more mentally for me to feel good. And there is no way that I would have kept my leg had I not been. And I was in the best shape I'd ever been. I'd finally was like, I feel like I'm the healthiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
And this happens. And, I look at it as everything I did prepared me for this accident. It prepared me to get through 34 surgeries, and they had to do a muscle flap where I had a hole in my leg, and they can't put just skin over bone. It won't heal, and they can't put skin over metal. It won't heal. So they were like, we're going to have to take muscle from either your back or your quad to fill in that hole. We're going to try to take it from your calves. And, my whole life, people made fun of me for my calves. You got big calves. And I'm like, thank God I had big calves, because they were able to use my calf to put it in the front of my leg. And something interesting too, the doctor said after the muscle flap, you won't be able to move that part. You won't be. Well, my calf is in the front of my leg, and I can move it. And he's like, no, that's not possible. I'm like, no, but I can watch. And it just shows you like the power of our beliefs. If we really connect to something that we really want to do, that it starts with belief. And I remember when I finally got out of the hospital almost 4 months later, and I was laying in the hospital bed. We had a hospital bed in the living room, And I had a physical therapist that came over 5 days a week. And the first day that she came over, she looked at me and she's like, kind of like, the look on her face was, I don't know what to do with you. I'm scared to touch you. Because I looked really scary. I looked like I was barely living. I'd lost like 20 pounds of muscle. My leg was it looked like Frankenstein. It was like barely pieced together. She goes, okay, well, just lift your leg off the bed. And I couldn't do it. I could not lift my leg up. And I
was
thought...
that like an internal defeat?
Well, there was just a disconnection.
Between the muscle.
I was like, move my leg, and it wouldn't move. And it scared me to death because I thought, I'm not going to be able to move it. Am I paralyzed? What's going on, And because I had like steel rods, a halo that was in my leg for so long, and now it's all full of metal. And the wiring was all the nerves had been so damaged. I had compartment syndrome. So it was just haywire. It didn't know. I was saying move, but it's like, dude, we don't know what to do. The muscles aren't even in the right place anymore. And so literally every day after that, I willed my leg to move. And I was like, just worked really hard to believe and try, let me move it an inch off the bed today. And little by little, baby step after baby step, and with a lot of prayer, it finally started to move. I finally, after months, was able to stand upright. But it was a journey. I had somebody say, well, how'd you learn to walk again? The doctor said that you would be wheelchair bound. And I was like, it was standing up for seconds at a time some days. And it started with that. And then it started with crutches, and then back in the wheelchair, and then a walker. And I hated that walker, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that just made me feel like I was 100 years old.
Yeah. Did you have that mindset of, were doctors telling you wouldn't be able to walk again? I know they were telling you originally you needed it amputated, right?
Yeah. And then after all of that, and I'm like, I'm saving it. I was in so much pain. I was like, you know what? Can you just cut it off?
Because it's just...
I was like, it's too painful. I can't do this. It's better if we just cut it off. After all those surgeries.
Yeah, and all the surgeries were moving around muscle and replacing skin. And
putting the bone back together piece by piece, putting my foot back on my leg, which sounds so weird to say, but it was like my foot was not, it was off. It's crazy. And it's good. It's good that I can laugh about it now, and that is what has got me and my husband through so much, is just being able to laugh at so much, and even my youngest daughter, man, she gives me a hard time, and we laugh together. And also when we're out and somebody might make a comment, we make up stories like, shark attack. It was brutal. Or we just like,
awesome.
We just...
See, I do that now, but it's just to prep for in case I get attacked by a shark when I'm out swimming. I'm like, I'm going out with the sharks. If I joke about it, then at least it'll be funnier.
You were out in the ocean all the time.
I was out there this morning.
You were?
Yeah, it's so nice. So nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But anyways, so all these surgeries, are the doctors then telling you, you're obviously in pain, are they telling you you're not going to be able to walk again? Or through this process were you starting to...
Well, I was diagnosed shortly after I went to a doctor. I was finally upright on crutches, and I was thinking I'm going to go to the doctor, and he's going to praise me for how good. Wow, you're out of your wheelchair. Look at you. And he took one look at me, examined me, and left the room. And I looked at my husband like, well, that doesn't seem like something's not right.
Yeah.
And he came back in, he said, you've got something very serious. You've got a nerve disease called complex regional pain syndrome, and your life's never going to be the same. And I worked so hard to only find out it's going to get worse. And I left there and I was devastated, and I went straight to physical therapy and told the physical therapist, I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked before if I want to have the life that I've always imagined. And I wish I never would have said that, because I've had to work so hard. Yeah. It's been hard, but to live with chronic pain has been hard.
Is that common? Because we talked obviously before, and you told me about it, and I had never heard about that.
Yeah.
So is it common for mostly for like traumatic accidents? Or
Well,
is it,
yeah, it's caused by trauma, but I have met someone who had to have a surgery on their wrist and they had CRPS in their arm. I've met someone who sprained their ankle and they had it in their leg. I'm grateful that I only have CRPS in my right leg. I started when I was on my feet, when I got back into work and I was training client after client after client.
This is after the...
This is after
so
the
how
accident.
long after the accident were you back?
It took me about 1.5 years.
Okay.
It took me about a year.
Learning how to walk, managing the pain,
Yeah.
and all the surgeries.
Yeah, I was pretty much a fail at managing the pain because I tried to start training again and I think I had to go through that to really learn how to be resilient because I hadn't got it yet. And I think a lot of times we learn lessons from the universe will say, oh, you're still not getting this? Well, let me throw this at you and see if you learn this lesson. And I really had to learn to be resilient I came up with something called PACER, which stands for Perspective, Acceptance, Community, Endurance, and Rest. And if I don't do all those things throughout the day, then I can't. Every day. And that's how because I feel like we all have resilience, and that's how I really tap into my resilience. And when I'm not doing well at that, even my husband will be like, Pacer, Amberly, where's the R? You're not resting. Yeah. And it's been a big lesson for me. And I think rest is my biggest challenge because I just want to do everything and I want to be everywhere and I don't want to rest. But I think to be resilient, we have to learn to rest. I mean, look, I charge my phone much more than I charge myself. And to hear that you were in the ocean this morning, I'm like, that's amazing. I just journaled this morning and I was like, it's easy to get caught in that hamster wheel of life. And I have a morning routine. In my morning routine, I journal and I write down my priorities. And I'm like, health has to be at the top. Like, you have to put your health at the top or you can't enjoy anything else.
Yeah.
And so I love to hear that you are already in the ocean this morning.
Yeah, it's one of those to just force yourself,
do it.
If your mind is telling, I've found if your mind is telling you, your mind is protecting you, right? So it's the hunter-gatherer, like, why would you go in that ocean? Like, there's nothing good can come from that. So turning that switch off and be like, no, I'm getting up, it's early, and I'm going to go swim. Because I want to do it, and I'm not listening to, it's cold, you can stay in bed, you can just go to the gym instead, like, I'm not listening to any of those things, and I'm just like, this is what I'm doing, like, forcing it, and then I come out, like, swimming out here has been the best thing. I just started doing it like a month ago. I'd always swim in a pool, and I always felt great, but the feeling of being in the ocean, and then, like, everything else that goes along with it, it's been really, really cool, so I've been enjoying it. But, like, I want to hear more about how this PACER concept come up? How far after the accident?
Well, it's taken a long time. Honestly, it has taken me like 8 years to really get it because I went to a really dark place. I thought getting hit by an SUV was a rock bottom. No, it got darker. It was because nothing was working for my pain, and I think a lot of us, when we're in pain, we don't talk about it, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain. We put on this mask that everything's okay. I mean, I know I did. I tried to pretend like everything was okay. I was raised where, in Texas, it's like tough. Yep. It's like you cowgirl up. You hide your crazy and be a lady. And, and growing up.
And that in LA.
I'm like, I don't want to hide my crazy anymore. But also as an athlete, I grew up where it was like, suck it up. The coach was like, I don't care if you're throwing up, just get off the track to throw up and then keep running. And dancing, it was like, I don't care if your toes are bleeding in your point shoes, the show must go on. And that mentality really helped me. It helped me push through a lot. And it worked until it didn't. It worked until I was in a place where I couldn't push through the pain anymore. I hit like a wall And I thought, I've got to do something different, because it's one of those things I always ask myself, well, how's that working for you? Is that working out? No, you better do something else. And that's how I started building on this whole pacer technique. And I had gone to an event with a friend who knows me well, and in the car ride on the way home, she's like, you have something inside you that allows you to be resilient. If you can really figure out what that is, she goes, you need to write that down, because it's something you do every day and it's really instilled upon you. You need to share that. And later on that night, I sat down with my husband, and he looked at me, and I've got my leg propped up on the table. We've got takeout boxes. And he can see in my eyes that I was in pain, and he said, you really need to pace yourself. And I was like, I am pacing myself, and my pace is full throttle, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to your podcast are type A personalities that are full throttle. And I thought, you know what, I'm a pacer, and I kind of was like, I'm going to prove it to him. I started writing down everything that I did throughout the day to be resilient and to be able to work despite my pain, to be able to find joy despite my pain, to be able to get up, get out of bed, and go to the gym despite my pain. And that's how Pacer came about. And it's been a really, at first I thought I just did it for pain. And then I realized I was sharing it with my oldest daughter, and she goes, Mom, you don't do that just for pain. It's helped you with so much. She said, it's helped you with your addiction. It's helped you with your anxiety. It's helped you with your depression. And I was like, wow, you're right. Sometimes it helps to have someone that kind of sees from not in your perspective to show you, because she was, our challenges don't just affect us, they affect our entire family, they affect the way we perform and work. And so it was nice to have my own daughter see that I used it to help me in so many ways. Yeah. I mean, I hate that she saw me in such a low point. But
and is that when you talk about the addiction, did that come after the accident?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I went from being an athlete and, having a successful career to I lost just about everything. I lost my career. I lost my joy. I lost my confidence. I lost hope. And when nothing was working for the pain, I started trying to self-medicate to try to numb it all out. My world got really small. I went from having this big life to all of a sudden no one knew just how bad I hurt, and I was starting to isolate. And I think that pain has a way of doing that.
Yep.
Your world becomes very small, and I started drinking to try to cope with the pain. And I wasn't a big drinker, and all of a sudden I was drinking to try to numb out the pain. And then I realized I wasn't just trying to numb out the pain, I was trying to numb out my feelings on the way that I hated the way I looked, that I couldn't do what I used to do, and I had to shift all that around. And that took a lot of courage to admit that I needed help.
Yeah. So walk me through the pacer again. What's the acronym for?
So
and then
perspective.
And then so how do you use perspective?
Perspective, I feel like we have the ability to shift our life with a single shift in perspective. And for me, it is the cheapest and the easiest way to shift your mindset and just change the way you feel about your situation. And it's something that I use every day. When I wake up, it hurts when I wake up to get out of bed. And I could easily think, oh, my life sucks, it hurts to walk. But I think, you know what? I am walking. And so I shift my perspective and focus on the good.
Yeah.
So I think by shifting your perspective, sometimes you have to think about how worse it could be.
Yeah.
But I always circle around to gratitude to shift my perspective as well.
100%. Yeah, so I was doing that. We talked when I was up at my parents' place. My dad's battling melanoma. I didn't tell you. So we got, the week after we spoke, we went down, he got a PET scan and came back from stage 4 to full remission.
Oh my
God.
God.
So but talk about perspective, I would see him getting down, and probably when I talked to you was one of the more frustrating points because I was up there trying to push him, and trying to get him moving around. He didn't want to walk, like all those things. And so it was one of the most frustrating points for me, and I'm sure, like not even close to how frustrating it was for him, right? But yeah, that was my duty up there. Was like my whole goal was like keep him positive, keep him going forward, because so many people that I talked to who had lost loved ones to cancer, most of them said it was a moment where they just like gave up. They just like not that it's their fault, but they just tired of the pain, tired of the medicine, tired of all the things. And mentally they just checked out, and that's when things started spiraling downhill. So like my whole focus with my dad was like keep him positive, keep him going. And that was one of the things I told him was like you should be lucky that you're like, he was almost paralyzed, and I'm like, you can walk around with a walker, you can walk around with like, how many people wish that we're in your situation that has it worse. Like there's always, and that's from a protective standpoint, there's always someone that's gonna have it worse than you. Like as horrible of an accident as you were in, like you're alive. And that's one way to really
oh my gosh, it was just like there were days when I thought, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this today. And I would just hear my daughter's voice. She was 2 years old at the time, and she'd say mama, and I was like, okay, I got this. I was like, I'm alive. I still have my leg. I mean, there are days when I can't drive because I can't have my leg down. And I just prop my leg up on the dashboard and I drive with my left foot. And I think, you know what? I have freedom. I have the perspective to shift my perspective. I can still drive when there were times I was stuck in the hospital bed. And so, but the next part of PACER was one of the hardest things for me. And that was, it stands for acceptance. I didn't want to, I was living in denial. I didn't want to accept that I was going to live with this nerve disease. And I didn't want to accept, and I would try to hide the way that I looked. Like I would try to cover up my leg. I would try to walk without a limp. And I think acceptance is when our healing journey, our recovery journey truly begins. And I shifted my mindset from acceptance was I was defeated, there was something wrong with me, to no, I am free. I have all these tools to take action to do something about this. And also, I feel like once I finally accepted the way that I looked, it's like once you accept your imperfections, no one can use them against you. It's like, yep, that's my leg. Look at what I survived, instead of, oh, these scars are so ugly. And as soon as I was in acceptance, I just was able to share my experiences with others and a lot of people who had been through similar situations, whether it was in a dark place emotionally or physically, and it led me to a community of people. And that's the C part of PACER, which is community, which is, I think, maybe the most powerful part of PACER, because we can do things, we're strong, but when we have community, we're unstoppable. And I tried to do it on my own, and it didn't work. Like, it just did not work. I needed someone, first of all, I needed something bigger than me. I needed to believe that there was something bigger than me, and some purpose bigger than me, and that helped me get through. And the community of people around me, I've walked through some scary things, and thank God I've got a community of people that have been cheering me on. And I had somebody say, well, you're really lucky that you have a community. And I'm like, no, it's not lucky. Yeah, I'm lucky, but hard work puts you where your blessings can find you, because I had to reach out, and it takes courage. And a community is just not take, take, take. You have to be willing to give. You have to be willing to be of service. And I love being of service. That is my whole purpose, is what can I do? What can I do to grow a community of supportive people? Because it takes endurance, and that's the next part of PACER, is endurance. And I had to get gritty. I had to persevere, and it's baby stepping it all the way. And it is, for me, it wasn't enduring the pain. It was really doing my best despite my circumstances. And the next part of PACER is the hardest part for me, is rest. It's so hard to rest.
Exactly,
It's
right?
like, it's finding creative ways to rest when you have that never-ending to-do list, when you just have a busy schedule. It's really making yourself a priority, having self-love and compassion and enough, respecting yourself enough to set healthy boundaries. And I'm learning all that. When I was talking about Pacer to my husband, he was like, yeah, you do that, yeah. And when it came to rest, he goes, you are so full of it. You don't do that. So I almost wanted to call this pace. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, the universe keeps telling me it needs to be Pacer because rest is such an important part of resilience.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you do for rest? Or what are you trying to do?
Well, I really tried meditation and I'm horrible at it. And so I downloaded an app, and I have an app that it's Calm. I don't have any affiliation with them, but I love it, and I use it every single day. Mm-hmm. And I love it because they have guided meditations, and I also love it because at night I use it. My daughter and I will pick out music at night, and sometimes it's just ocean waves. Mm-hmm. My most favorite is ocean waves. I love the ocean, and just to have that quiet time. I also think music is powerful. I think music can be healing. It can, if you're an athlete, it can get you pumped up to work out. But it can also have the same effect as getting you to rest and bringing some calm. And I do active meditation, which is going for a walk, but clearing my mind, or even coloring in a coloring book. My daughter and I will have, every Sunday night, we have art lessons. And it's like, she's creative. She'll come up with, this is what we're doing today. And just to be in that present moment, sometimes for me, resting is just being in the now. Like, being in this moment, not doing a million things, like checking Instagram while you're trying to do a mastermind on your computer and then trying to clean the house while you're listening to, like, being in the moment, just being in the moment. That's one of the things that I strive for, is being in the now.
I like it. So now let's shift gears a little bit. So how long did it take from the accident to then this place where you felt good about life, where you're going, the direction? What's the timeline there?
Gosh, honestly, it took like 6 years.
6 years.
And it took 6 years. Yeah, because I was in and out of the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, still, my last surgery was a year ago, but I'm done. I'm done with surgeries. But I still have to go. I'm supposed to go in for another nerve block because I've done all kinds of things for CRPS. I'm supposed to have another nerve block. But yeah, it took 6 years. I started writing the book. In the middle of writing the book, I hit.
Was that around 6 years, or was it?
That was about 6 years. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the book. So thank you for the copy, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So
I hope you enjoy it.
True, you're in great. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of your stories in here, and kind of in this Pacer in here as well.
No, Pacer's not in there, but Pacer is going to, I'm creating a community where people can, I'm going to walk. Let me tell you, I just did the videos for it. It's hard. I don't know how actors do it, because I was like, I had to do it over and over, and I'm like, but I don't want it to sound, I want it to be authentic. And he's like, well, it's your message, it's authentic, but it's like, I get so intimidated having a camera in my face, and so maybe I should have just had, I'm like, oh. But I'm creating an online, like a free course where people can learn to really use the Pacer technique and apply it to their lives. Whether it's, like for me, when we had the fires out here, I was so anxious because they were going to evacuate us, and I used Pacer to get through my anxiety for that. So whether it's something big, like you're dealing with that, or
situational. So in the book, is it mostly your story?
It is a memoir meant to inspire, and by what I've had, people. It's interesting how many people, like, things in the book jump out, and I've had people, women and men, talk to me about the sexual abuse in the book, and they say, thank you so much. You've given me the courage to not carry the shame that I had about my sexual abuse. I talk about the physical abuse. I talk about growing up in Texas and things that I experienced and some difficult situations that instead of using those to bring me down, I have used those to strengthen me and say, like being abused, instead of going into that victim mentality, I used it to go into Krav Maga and get a belt in Krav Maga and I was a boxer, and I taught people how to box. I mean, I still do, but not to the level that I did, just because I've been so busy with the coaching and everything. But I did Muay Thai, so I used these things to propel me into other things.
Gotcha. And was writing the book almost therapy? Like, did that give you closure?
It was cathartic.
Really?
Oh my God. But people say...
I've heard that before with
yeah.
almost like selfishly you write it just to get your own, like go in deep and then just get it all out. And then it's like, well, whatever happens with it, if it helps anyone, great.
Yeah. I really had no idea. Like, I thought that I had dealt with a lot of things that I hadn't dealt with on the level that I write about in the book. And in fact, in the middle of writing the book, the editor called me and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And he's like, "No, I need to come over and see you to make sure you're okay." And he goes, "I feel like we've just taken the lid off of things because, we have all these things that we've gone through, and I'm exposed, raw, and vulnerable in this book." And it was really scary when it was published, because I thought, oh my gosh, this is like a tell-all.
Like family,
I am
friends,
so vulnerable in this book. And that was scary. But the response that I've had to it, I'm blown away. Like, I had no idea that they would, when I was writing the book, that I would get a call from NBC and say, "We want to have you on the show." And I'm sitting there with Megyn Kelly, and she's on the break. She's asking me things about my book. Like, she read the book, and she's like, "In the book, when you say you have a PhD and suck it up, I do too." And I was like, oh my God, Megyn Kelly read my book, It was amazing.
That's awesome.
So it's just been an incredible journey. And for the past year, I've been on tour with the book and done book signings in Kentucky and North Carolina and Miami and Texas and all these places that I get to meet people that have read my book, and we're connected on social media, and I finally get to meet them in person. So it has been more than I could ever imagine, just because of the connections I've made throughout the process.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that's affects you a lot when you hear from people, whether it's in person or social.
Gosh. It makes that whole journey worth every minute, just hearing from somebody that says, "Because of you, I didn't give up."
Yeah. And then how did the TED Talk come about?
Oh my gosh, that was one of the scariest things I've ever done. When they asked me to do the talk, it was a dream of mine. I was like, I want to do a TED Talk. And then I got the call. They're like, "We would love for you to do the TEDx Berkeley. It's our 10th anniversary, and it's going to be a big celebration, and we want you to be there." I thought I'd be excited. I sat on the couch, and I was frozen in fear. I was like, oh my God, how do I share something? The TEDx or a TED Talk is all about ideas worth sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to share Pacer. And I told my husband, he's like, "Well, what are you going to talk about?" I'm like, "I'm going to share Pacer." And he goes, "You are?" And I'm like, "Yeah, is that okay? Do you think it's an idea worth sharing?" And
how new was Pacer at the time?
Brand new.
Okay, so you had
totally new.
Yeah.
Had not talked about it. Had not. And so, but it's interesting when you have to think about, you've got 14 minutes to share the most important message of your life, and you have to make it like crystal clear. And so the days before I was going to give the TEDx, my daughter got the flu. I had just gotten out of the hospital. I had a horrible infection, so I was on 2 powerful antibiotics. My daughter's sick. I'm running up and down the stairs trying to practice my TEDx talk upstairs in my office and holding the throw-up bucket for her downstairs. My back goes out. So I'm laying on the floor, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she can't talk. If I get the flu, by 3 days from now, I won't be able to talk. I'm going on stage. And a friend texted me, and she's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Horrible. Life sucks." And she texted me one word, Pacer. And I was like, oh, this is to get me to believe in my own message. And I was like, okay, universe, I got this lesson. I don't need you to have me on the floor to get me to believe in my message even more. But I started breaking down Pacer and using that. The next day, my back felt better, obviously, because I wasn't as stressed. And it really did get me to believe in my message even more. And so I was able to go on that stage in front of 2,000 people, and it was powerful. One of the most amazing experiences that I've ever had, because you can practice your talk, but when you're in front of a live audience, and that audience was amazing, like I had slides and they would gasp at the slides, and I was kind of like, oh, what are they looking at? What are they talking? Oh, and then I was talking and they laughed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're laughing. They're laughing with me. You know what I mean? So it was incredible. Yeah. Like, to know, like, I didn't feel like I was like giving a talk or talking. I felt like we're all in a room together, and I want to share this message so you get it and you can claim your resilience too, you know?
That's amazing.
It was so much fun.
Have you gotten, how much kind of, I shouldn't say attention, but how much of your story do you think people hear from that TEDx talk versus the book versus everything else you're doing? Well,
it's amazing, the ripple effect, because I think after I was on the Today Show, oh my gosh, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, my emails were flooded, my Facebook was people messaging. It was insane, and I had so many people reach out from all over the United States. But with the book, I now have a client in Korea who read my book. I've got clients that are all over the United States. I have someone in India that I coach. And I think that has allowed me to connect with people globally. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing when I'm like, oh my gosh, my book is in the UK. How did it get? I just found out last night it's in Japan. I'm like, how did that happen? And so I think that with social media, it is amazing. It gives us the opportunity to connect with so many people. Like, I love that I can watch your story and know that you were in Vegas, or that you know, just to be able to see. And it's a blessing, and it can also be a time sucker. And I'm like, oh my God, where did 2 hours go? Or how did I get down that rabbit hole? You know, go down the rabbit hole of how did I get here? But yeah, it's the ripple effect. I still have people that have just seen the TEDx talk. I just did it like 6 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so, like, my daughter told me last night, Mom, you have all these messages on YouTube. And I'm like, I do? Well, show me how to work it. So it's amazing that I'm still connecting with people.
That's awesome. And so now you're focused on your coaching full time?
Coaching full time, but honestly, the book tour, I just got back from that, but the speaking has taken off. So I've been speaking at a lot of events, doing workshops, and I do the coaching, which I love because I used to be on the gym floor. Mm-hmm. Now I still have a few clients that I just love. One of my clients I've had for 20 years, and I'm never going to stop training her. But I mostly do the online coaching and group coaching. I'm working on, like I said, the online course, which I'll be able to connect with more people and globally. And I just love traveling and speaking. So, and then we talked a little bit about the event that I'm doing or collaboration that I'm doing with FabFitFun.
Yeah, our friends.
And that was another connection that we had.
Just like, random.
I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I see you've done something with FabFitFun too. And I'm like, oh, wow, me too. So it's amazing how those little connections.
And so can you talk about the collaboration you're doing with them yet? Or is it still,
actually I'm I love the company because they're not just about, here's your box of goodies. They do their whole, like, they're focusing on mental health. And they had called me to do something with them, and I pitched Pacer to them. And I'm like, well, I think it'd be great. I could talk about mental health because I have the nerve disease dubbed the suicide disease, and I have dealt with depression. This is what I use to help me with that. And I pitched it, and they liked Pacer, and they liked it so much that they're like, yeah, we want to do 5 videos, not just one. We want to do a video for every single for perspective, acceptance, community. And
Yeah.
I'm like, awesome. And then
You
I
can just use this right here.
I'll just use this. There you go. And then I get off the phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, 5 videos?
Mm-hmm.
And I signed the contract. I'm like, it's an 8-hour shoot? Holy moly, I better get my hair done. I better have my makeup, I better get it together.
Yeah.
But that's going to be in August.
Okay.
So I have a little time to practice.
So they'll probably release that for their winter box, I'm assuming, fall box maybe?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
Pretty
I'm not
cool.
sure.
We'll keep everyone in the loop on it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're a great group. So if anyone listening, if you haven't heard, we had Katie Kitchens on the last episode.
I loved that
the founder
episode,
of
by the
Fat
way.
Fun. So it's just another random connection that we had.
It was.
So.
I was like, oh my gosh, that was like the first podcast that popped up for me because I want to listen to all of them, and that was the first one that popped up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so meant to be.
Yeah.
Like we were so meant to be friends.
Yeah.
And pretty soon I'll be jumping in the ocean with you in the mornings.
Well, my girlfriend was a dancer too, so I got to ask you.
You're kidding me.
What would you specialize in?
Well, I moved out here to
Mhm.
pursue my dreams as a dancer. And my first music video was with MC Hammer. That's how old I am.
Can we pull that up? Is that?
Yeah, I don't know if you in the video. Now I've got blonde hair. I had like brown or dark afro back then,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like the token white girl on the video. So I specialized in my forte I think was tap, but there was not that much tap. Although
Not
I
in
did
MC
like
Hammer
commercials or no. But I danced. Your girlfriend will probably know Joe Tremaine.
Okay.
I don't know. She's a lot younger than me, probably. But the Dance Center, Edge, ballet, tap, and jazz, but mostly jazz and hip hop was what I did for dancing. So it's funny that every once in a while, like I was just on stage at this conference called Powerful You, and they're like, we're going to use this special music when you walk on the stage. And I didn't know what they were going to use. And I get out there and I start dancing, and people are always surprised when I start busting a move because they're like, I don't look like I maybe would be able to like full on dance like that.
Yeah.
And I'd like surprising people and like, start doing a move.
Yeah.
I can moonwalk.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have to see that before you go. So from dancing into the fitness, and then now, you're helping people obviously in a bunch of different aspects, but what are you kind of looking forward to, moving forward? Is it more the training? Is it more the speaking? Is it just reach?
Love
is it deep
speaking.
connection?
Deep connection. I think my favorite thing, because I love coaching because I can do it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I am now working on my podcast, so I want to have you on my podcast.
No problem.
Okay, see, did y'all hear that? No problem. First guest right here. Working on the podcast because I think it does allow us to, just spread our message globally. The coaching, but my favorite thing is I love people, and so when I'm at a conference speaking, I love that because I get to meet so many people. And so that's what I want to focus on more too, is just speaking more, because I love working with people. And my online course, I think it will give people a way to connect and with like-minded people, so I'm focusing on that too.
All right. So if anyone listening right now is either dealing with pain or has a family member or someone close to them, is there any advice where to start? Is it to find you, or is it just any kind of advice you can give them?
I love when people reach out. So reach out to me, whether it's through my website, amberlylago.com, or through Instagram DM, Amberly Lago Motivation. But reach out. If you don't reach out to me, I know it's hard when you're in pain or you're depressed. The hardest thing for me to do was to reach out. And it takes a lot of courage, but it changed my life. I have people that have asked, what's the boldest thing you've ever done? And I've jumped out of an airplane, I've bungee jumped, I used to be addicted to the mechanical bull. But seriously, it was crazy. But the bravest thing I've ever done was to admit that I was not okay. Like, I needed help, and to reach out to one person. If that person doesn't respond or you don't hear back, because that happened to me. Like, I reached out to somebody and they were like, yeah, I'm going to help you. I'm going to get back to you next week. And they never reached out. I had to reach out again. And I had to, the thing is, you have to be willing. You know, you have to, like, I had to go through it myself. I had to do the work myself. And I had to start to slowly build that community around me. But yeah, just reach out. And all it takes really is just to be willing to do it. That's all it takes. Some humility and some willingness, and you can thrive.
And do you feel like that's the most important thing, is reaching out, or is there any advice you'd give internally to start that process of healing?
To start the process of healing, well, what I do every single day, because I don't think that I would be where I am today, and the blessing of being able to sit here with you if I didn't have a morning routine and an afternoon and a nightly routine. But I start in the morning and I do an affirmation. And I think that an affirmation is, it starts to help you to believe in yourself and to change the way you think. Because we were talking about mindset earlier, and you were saying how you don't listen to that voice telling you that, oh, it's cold, or I'd rather stay in bed. You have to really shift your mindset. And, you know, my mind can tell me some pretty crazy stuff, and some really, I can be so hard on myself. And so if I start with an affirmation, even if I don't believe it, if I repeat it over time, I'm going to start to believe it. I write in my journal. This morning, I didn't have much time. I wrote what I could in my journal. And the main thing I wrote was, I got my priorities straight. Mm-hmm. That I have to focus on my health first, and family, then work. Like, get your priorities. And I read out of some spiritual books every single day, and I meditate. And that may seem like a lot. Mm-hmm. And to me, it does seem like a lot. Like the other day I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm running late. Screw the daily morning routine. I just got to do this. And I fell down trying to sit on the toilet. No joke. And I was like, okay, universe, I will still do my morning routine. Yeah. I hear you. It was like, I have to be knocked over the head sometimes to get it, you know? But
it's just like going to the gym, right? If you go to a plan and you walk into the gym, you're probably not going to get a lot done.
Yeah.
But if you have it set of what you're going to do and set your intention, then I think that's important.
Yeah. And that's a question I get asked a lot through DM mostly is, well, how do you work out when you're in pain? How do you work out when you're not having a good day? Well, I do what I can. Mm-hmm. I love that quote, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Okay. There are days where I can't do anything for my lower body, but I'm still at the gym doing everything I can for my upper body. In the hospital, I had a pull-up bar installed over my hospital bed, and I had dumbbells, and no matter what, I was doing what I could. Yeah. And that helped me mentally.
Do you ever use that? Because I use it a lot with people, is you get to do this.
That's what I do.
You get to work out.
I use that for myself. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I have to climb that mountain to hike. And I'm like, no, I get to hike today. I get to work out. Yeah. I use that a lot. It really helps.
That's amazing. Yeah, so and on the mindset piece, I started telling, and people joke about it, I hate getting sick. I'm like the biggest baby about getting a cold. I've told myself over and over again, I'm not gonna get sick. I refuse to get sick. And hey, if it works, I'm 2 years now. I don't think without any kind of cold or anything, and it's been great. But it is amazing how much setting, even if it's something like that, setting that intent can get you not to focus in on it. So yeah, that's amazing. All right, so thank you so much for being here. For anyone who's trying to find you, obviously the book they can find on Amazon.
Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore. Okay. If you want a signed copy, I'll write you a little love note in there, and you can get it right off my website.
Careful. You may have a lot of requests.
My husband might not like that.
So, True Grit and Grace, and then for people to find you on, what's the best place for people to find you?
Social media, you can find me at Amberly Lago Motivation on Instagram, and you can go in my profile and connect with me in every way there. You can email me from there. You can go to my website from there, amberlylago.com. You can email me, check out when my next events are up, get my book Best way
Awesome.
to reach me.
Thank you so much again for being
Thank
here. And thank you for all the kind words too when we spoke when I was with my dad. So I truly appreciate it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm glad to hear he's doing well.
well, thank you so much again for coming down. And this is, by the way, this is our first podcast we recorded in our new WeWork office in LA. So
I love it here.
I told him, I'm like, it looks like boiler room in here. Like, we're getting ready to up and leave. And I'm like, we're getting furniture, we're getting stuff on the walls.
It's
everything's gonna
nice,
be good. So,
and I love the little area and the. Let's go
get
grab
a little
some coffee. Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you again so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
We'll talk
Thanks so
soon.
much.